Halloween always brings something strange, but what happened in my house that night is something I'll never forget. It happened not too long ago, just a few weeks after a massive storm knocked out the power in my area for days. In July, my ex-wife and I finalized our divorce. I moved into a quiet gated community built around a man-made lake. Only 15 houses, no fences, open yards, and the lake at the back, dark and still at night. The neighbors were close. Barbecues, sports, weekend get-togethers. But I wasn't in the mood to socialize. The divorce had drained me. The only person I spoke to was my neighbor Victor, a military man, gun enthusiast, and as I would later learn, a real hero. My daughter Lily, 4 years old, stayed with me on weekends. Her room faced the lake. I decorated it with toys and lights to make her feel safe. She was, and still is, my whole world. Because of the storm, we missed a few visits. I spent a couple weekends alone. I even slept in her room a few nights, windows open for some breeze. I never thought to close them again. When the power came back, so did Lily, and that's when the nightmare started. She began talking about the lady who sings, and said she didn't like her. I assumed it was someone from school or church and didn't pay much attention. Until one Saturday night, she woke up screaming. I ran to her room. She was trembling under the covers, pointing to an empty corner. "There, look," she cried through tears. But no one was there. I checked the closet, under the bed, every shadow, nothing. She just kept saying, "Tell the singing lady not to come back. Please, Daddy, make her go away." She refused to sleep alone after that. I let her stay in my bed. The next day, with Halloween coming, I took her out to buy a costume and some candy. I also bought a baby monitor. If she had another nightmare, I'd be able to hear it immediately. The following weekend, Lily couldn't come. She had a cold. I spent the days alone again. It was Saturday, around 2 a.m. The neighborhood was already decorated with jack-o'-lanterns, orange lights, and fake cobwebs. I was sound asleep until the monitor woke me. It was a voice, a woman humming a lullaby. A chill ran down my spine. I wasn't dreaming. The voice was inside my daughter's room. It grew clearer, closer. "Lily, are you awake, sweetheart?" Then complete silence. I was frozen, my heart pounding. I jumped out of bed, locked my door, and called Victor with shaking hands. He didn't take long. I heard his front door slam open, then his voice, loud and sharp. "Not one more step." I ran outside. Victor was aiming a shotgun at someone standing under Lily's window, the same window I'd left open since the storm. It was a woman, dressed in old worn clothes, hair tangled covering her face. Victor shouted, asking who she was and what she was doing. She didn't answer, just looked at us and smiled. That smile, I'll never forget it. She slowly backed away toward the lake, step by step, until the fog swallowed her. Victor and his wife swore they had never seen her before. No one in the neighborhood knew her. She didn't live there, or work there, a complete stranger. The next day, Victor helped me install bars on Lily's window. I never saw the woman again, but sometimes, when the wind howls across the lake, I swear I hear soft humming drifting in through the metal grates, like she's still out there waiting, and I survived to tell. I live with my parents on the first floor of a pretty normal apartment building. We have a cat who loves going out every day. In the mornings, he follows us to the door, takes the elevator with us, and goes off to explore the neighborhood. Sometimes he comes back within hours, sometimes not for a couple of days. When he wants to return and we're not home, he sits right under our balcony and meows until someone lets him in. If a neighbor with a key is around, they bring him up. If not, some at least open the building door so he doesn't have to stay outside. Our apartment has 2 entrances, one through the stairs, with a door that has 2 locks, and the other through the elevator, which opens directly into our home if you have a special key. The cat and I prefer the elevator. I mention all this because for years, That routine was completely normal. Everything worked. Nothing strange ever happened. Until recently, one night close to Halloween, something happened. That weekend, my parents went on a night hike in the woods. They loved doing things like that, especially in October. I stayed home. For me, that meant horror movies, video games, and ordering junk food. That Saturday, it was around 11 p.m. Halloween was just a few days away, so the building was already decorated. Plastic pumpkins, fake cobwebs, orange lights in the halls. Outside, the air felt different, heavier, colder. I was watching a movie when I heard a meow. Someone must have let the cat into the building, and now he was waiting at the door. I got up with my keys in hand and walked toward it, but something made me stop. I know my cat's meow by heart. It's a soft, high-pitched meow with a rhythm I recognize instantly. I've been hearing it for years, every single day, but this sound wasn't the same. It was deeper, slower, not real. I stood still, the key halfway turned in the lock, and then I heard something else, scratching at the door. My cat never does that. That's when something inside me, something instinctive switched on, a silent alarm. But the meowing continued, louder, more persistent, like whatever was outside was running out of patience. And then I heard something that truly froze my blood. A human cough, not a sneeze, not a weird noise, a real adult cough. My heart was pounding. I'm not usually paranoid, but something told me to check the peephole, and thank God I listened. There he was, a man, standing in front of my door, still, motionless, and he was meowing. He was an adult, no costume, no mask, just standing there, in the hallway, meowing like a cat, like he thought he could fool me, like he somehow knew what my cat sounds like, and knew that I was alone that night. I didn't know what to do. I froze. I have no idea how long I stood there, staring. He kept meowing, then coughing, then standing perfectly still again. When I finally reacted, I ran to get my phone and called the police. They arrived in minutes, but when they opened the door, there was no one there, just the hallway, with fake cobwebs and a broken pumpkin near the elevator. No footsteps, no noise. I told them what I saw. They told me to stay alert, said it was probably someone unstable, but something didn't add up. You need a key to enter the building. How did he get in? How did he know to meow, to try and trick me into opening? How did he know I'd be alone that night? Sometimes, I wonder if someone pretending to be just another person used the Halloween mood to get closer. When everyone lets their guard down because it all feels like part of the game. When any weird sound or strange person can be brushed off as a prank or a costume. Since then, every time I hear meowing at the door, I don't rush to open. I walk up slowly and check through the peephole in silence. And even though my cat came back and is sleeping in my bed right now, I can't stop thinking that something stood at that door that never should have been there. Something or someone. And I survived to tell. It was Halloween night. I remember because the city was quieter than usual, as if even the few people who usually went out at night had chosen to stay home that year. Maybe it was the cold, or maybe it was the kind of night when the air just felt strange. I lived downtown in a big city in the United States. I've always been a night owl. I liked walking late, when everyone else was asleep, while my roommates stayed home watching horror movies, or handing out candy. I went out for one of my long walks. It relaxed me to think alone, among the silent streets, under the dim glow of streetlights. I'd done this for years, without ever having a real reason to feel scared. I always joked that even on Halloween, the city was so quiet that even the ghosts got bored. That night, just after 1 a.m, I passed near a park that the police often patrolled. There were old decorations on houses, unlit pumpkins, and some candy wrappers blowing across the sidewalk with the wind. Not a soul on the streets, not even kids pulling late pranks. I took a side street to start heading home. when I saw him. Far ahead, on my side of the street, stood the figure of a man. He was dancing, and not just any dance. It was like an old-fashioned waltz, but with exaggerated steps forward, as if each move pushed him closer to me. It wasn't joyful choreography. It was something disturbing. I immediately thought maybe it was part of a costume, or some Halloween prank. I even thought he might be drunk from a party. I stepped aside to give him space, without giving it much thought. But as he got closer, I noticed his movements weren't clumsy. They were elegant, almost too perfect. He glided with eerie precision, like every step had been rehearsed. He wore an old faded suit, like something from the 1950s. Then I saw his face. His eyes were wide open but not looking at me. They stared at the sky, as if he were searching for something up there. And his smile, a smile too wide, too tense. It wasn't a happy expression. It was a grimace that looked painful, as if his face were trapped in a mask of madness. It was like someone had disguised fear itself as a person. I decided to cross the street. I didn't want him that close. I crossed while still watching him. But when I got to the other side and turned around, he had stopped, standing with one foot in the street, perfectly aligned with me. He didn't look at me directly, but his head was still tilted back, the smile still on his face. I froze completely. I didn't understand what I was seeing. It was Halloween, yes, but this didn't feel like a joke. No cameras, no hidden laughter, just him and me. I started walking again, heart racing, and just as I dared to look straight ahead, to make sure the path was clear, I looked back, and he was gone. The spot where he had stood was empty. I felt relief for a second, until I saw him. He was on the other side of the street, crouched, almost stalking. In the shadows, I could barely make out the silhouette of his head raised, still smiling. I knew no more than 10 seconds had passed since I last looked. But he had moved so fast, it was impossible to understand how he did it without making a sound. I stood frozen, unable to move. Then he started walking toward me, but not like before. Now he took long, exaggerated tiptoe steps, as if imitating a cartoon thief. But something about his speed chilled me to the bone. It wasn't an act. It was like he truly enjoyed my fear. I did nothing. Didn't scream, didn't run, didn't pull out my phone. Just stared, completely frozen. He stopped a few feet from me, still looking at the sky, still smiling. The silence was so heavy, it hurt my ears. When I finally found my voice, I tried to speak. All that came out was a trembling murmur, barely a meaningless whisper. He didn't respond, didn't move, didn't blink. Then, without a word, he slowly turned and started to walk away. Started dancing again, as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't matter. But I didn't want to turn my back on him. I watched him, step by step, fading down the street, until he almost disappeared into the darkness. Only then, I started walking, but I hadn't taken 5 steps when I noticed his figure was growing again, coming back, and this time, he wasn't dancing, he was running, toward me. I ran too, like never before in my life. I dove back into a brighter avenue with some traffic. When I looked behind, he was gone. I searched the shadows, the corners, nothing. But I didn't stop. I ran until I reached my building, and even after locking the door behind me, I checked the window, waiting for that tall figure, with a twisted smile, hidden among the trees. I lived 6 more months in that city. I never walked at night again, especially not on Halloween. Sometimes I wonder if what I saw was human, or if, that night, when the veil between the real and the strange thinned, I crossed paths with something not of this world. Because it wasn't a joke, it wasn't a costume, it was something much darker. And since that night, every time I see a smile that's just a little too wide, I remember him, and I survived to tell.
Suscríbete, subscribe now, dale like, hit the like button. Más historias te están esperando. More stories are waiting in the shadows. No te vayas, stay with me. Sobreviví para contarlo y tú también. I survived to tell, and so did